Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Chris Lee. Commodore fans, on your feet. It's time to anchor down.
Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast presented by Dr. Jody Jones, DDS. We're part of the 440 Sports Network. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today, Luke Wyatt. We'll talk about Vanderbilt baseball and then take questions across three sports in the mailbag. So with that, let's get on to our interview with Luke Wyatt. Luke Wyatt joins me. It's Monday morning. Vanderbilt has taken a series from South Carolina in, frankly, pretty improbable fashion with Hunter Owen not pitching, and honestly, Carter Holton shouldn't have pitched, I think, in hindsight. And Vanderbilt gets blown out on Friday night and wins the series anyway. Luke, I think that's one of the more memorable series I've covered in years. I know you watched it and followed it. And thank you for joining us today. Hope you were doing well.
Same to you, Chris. And yeah, it was. After the first game of the series, I'm like, good grief. With our pitching situation, are we going to be able to keep these guys in the park? I guess they hit 5 the first night. One kid hadn't hit one all year, even hit one. So I'm thinking, man, it's going to be tough. We're going to have to score a lot of runs to win this weekend. And then, wow, what a great job by Greysen Carter, by Patrick Reilly, and then Futrell yesterday. They really stepped up. All those kids did. Ryan Ginther. And I didn't think that after that explosion on Friday night, scoring 14, that we could hold them to 9 the rest of the weekend. But we did, and again, 2 out of 3, and we've won 5 straight series, and we're in great shape.
Yeah, Vanderbilt still hasn't lost a series. Reilly goes 4 innings, gives up 1 hit, just 2 base runners. Phenomenal performance. Only needed 62 pitches to get through 4 innings. That's an upset right there. I thought that he and Devin Futrell, and I keep waiting for it with Devin. I feel like I call it every weekend, and it just isn't happening. Just a guy that gives up a lot of fly balls and isn't overpowering. But, man, he is just so good at locating different pitches at any point in the count. He pounds the strike zone. I just was so impressed with the way those 2 kids threw this weekend.
Yeah, Devin is fast becoming the ace of the staff with Carter's problems, whatever they may be, and then Hunter Owen being down. I'm not sure if Hunter's pitching this week in Knoxville or not. I don't know yet. You may have some knowledge of that. But right now, Devin's the guy they're leaning on, and as long as, like you said, as long as his location holds up, he's the type of pitcher that will frustrate you. He'll give you that comfortable 0 for 4.
Yeah, their pitching depth is really something. I know people were freaking out saying their pitching depth's been overrated. Here's the deal. Look around the country. What was the average number of runs scored in the SEC on Friday night? Maybe 9 or 10 every team, and that's Friday night. You had a couple of series that started on Thursday. It is, and the bats and the balls, the offensive balance has gotten way out of whack, but everybody's having issues pitching. And I still could, even after this weekend, I was running some numbers this weekend, and I'll find what I've got. I haven't run it for everybody, but base runners allowed per inning pitched, okay, in SEC games. Vanderbilt 1.2, Tennessee 1.52, South Carolina 1.55, Kentucky 1.69. Those are probably 4 of the top 6 pitching staffs in the league. I don't know what Alabama's numbers are. Alabama's got some good numbers there. They'll have to run those. But, I mean, they're lapping the field in terms of conference play and what they've done. And the thing is, they've got different things, Luke. And that's the thing. I know that Patrick Reilly, he's not Devin Futrell. It's a lot harder. And you don't always know where it's going to go. And Greysen Carter's the same way, too. But when someone had said they thought those were the 2 guys going on Saturday, and somebody on our board said, oh, no, look out. And, okay, I could see that, but the other thing was both those dudes keep the ball in the park. And that's a pretty important attribute against that team, and I think that gets overlooked sometimes.
No, I think you're exactly right, because I was kind of like with the fan base. I was really worried about it, too. And something, Chris, that I was surprised by Carter's outing, not that it went bad, but his velocity was way up. but he just couldn't locate anything.
Yeah.
And, is that what did he have, 11 days off? Is that what it wound up being? So, maybe it was the time off, or he's just too anxious, too much juice, too much adrenaline going. I don't know. But I think he's going to be fine. I don't really worry about Carter. I think he'll be fine. He's the type of kid and his personality that he'll bounce right back from that.
Yeah, Tim Corbin said after the Sunday game, and we've got it on our YouTube channel if you want to hear what he said. He said that Greysen will be fine, could have even come back in that game, but they wanted to be cautious. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously Holton, reading between the lines, between what I've known for a couple of weeks and the way Tim answered the question, I think what happened was, because I know for a fact they were planning on holding him out this weekend too, and evaluating him on Monday, being today as we're doing this, and seeing how it was. It was never an injury. It was just soreness, and you monitor that. But I think what's happened, he's been on the sidelines. He's not pitched. He probably just wasn't sharp. And it sounded to me like, my guess is that when they knew Hunter was going to be out, Carter lobbied to get the ball the way Tim answered the question that I asked him on, I don't know, Saturday or Sunday or whenever that was.
Right. Carter's such a bulldog. I think you're right on that. My concerns about the upcoming week is, what will be the rotation? Now that we kind of had a scramble this past weekend, will we reset it to where it's Carlton, Hunter, and Devin again? Or will we still start Bryce? I'm not certain.
I don't think you can start Bryce Cunningham in that park against that lineup. I know Tennessee has not been 2022 Tennessee, but the ball can get out of there quickly, and he gave up 4 and 5 innings on Friday. I just don't think you can do that again.
Look, in their ballpark, though, they're a different team. It's kind of like playing Missouri at Missouri. It really is, and because they've fared well in their own ballpark. I don't. That's the reason why the series itself, I don't think either way will be a sweep, neither team, because of the way the ballpark plays.
I think the third guy I'm starting right now is Reilly. I really do.
Well, he deserves the opportunity, that's for sure. And something we got to think about too. We're playing what I would consider a bottom 2 SEC team in Indiana State coming in here tomorrow night. Which I know it's not as important to win it. It is important to win it because it's a good team. It's a feather in your cap. I think they swept this weekend, so they're like 21-12 and close to being ranked. That's going to be another tough midweek game.
My guess is you'll see a lot of probably Horn and Thompson, probably an inning of Jack Anderson somewhere. I don't think, and I'll have to look this up, I don't think Indiana State is a team that is just going to mash you to death. I could be wrong about that. I think it's more of a team that is just defense and pitching oriented. Usually it is. They're going to defend very, very well. So some balls that might have gone for hits this weekend. Boy, that's another subject. Carolina's defense was atrocious. May not go for hits against these guys. Let me look them up. As we're doing this, why can I not find it? Here we go. Indiana State, 21-12. And let's see, this weekend.
They swept.
Yeah, beat Illinois, Chicago, which isn't as good as it usually is. They did give up some runs this weekend, although they did get a 10-1 win in the middle. Last week in the midweek, beat Purdue 8-2. Week before in the midweek, got pounded by Indiana 15-5. So yeah, they might have a midweek pitching hole there.
Yeah, let's hope so. This weekend too in the SEC, there was no sweeps except for the Tennessee-Arkansas. So that's kind of calmed down a little bit, and I think you'll see more and more of that on the backside now that we're at the halfway point. I think the sweeps are not going to be happening near as often for anybody.
Yeah. I guess the other thing this weekend, R.J. Schreck, that home run that got them started, that catch, which I had a South Carolina writer tell me their bullpen said he dropped, the one where he went over the fence for. I don't think they were going to deny him that catch after the that train wreck of a play that ended the fourth or whatever that was. But in any case, he was sort of the match that lit the fire for that one on Saturday, I felt.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go back. We have to talk about that play. I called you because of course, I'm in the stands, but I couldn't tell anything, and I thought you might have a monitor close to you where you could see it better. I mean, to me, by the naked eye, I thought it hit the wall and then went to his glove, which turned out it did. But if you're an umpire in that situation, what do you do? I mean, I'm not sure. I think the umpires actually handled it okay considering the situation. But as a player, our kids did what they thought was right. So we weren't going to score on that play but one run no matter what it looked like, whether it's caught or it wasn't caught.
I have a hard time blaming the umpires based on my first impression because I don't think they called it out, did they? And if they don't call it out, then it's incumbent on the runners to keep running. Now, if they go back and replay it, that's a catch. I don't know what they do. Now, some guys from the Hustlers thought oh, so you did. See, that's what the Hustler guys told me. They thought that they saw an out signal, and if there was an out signal, my opinion on that would completely change.
Well, that's what it was. The second base umpire, I did see that. Because the first thing I did is immediately look at the umpire running out to the outfield, and he gave it a quick out, but then dropped his arm like, okay, I think he's out. You know what I mean? And again, I understand that because I think he probably saw in the mind's eye, he caught it, but maybe he didn't catch it. So to me, you go to replay on that, and they did. I mean, again, it's hard to blame the umpires on that. And that's going to happen 1 in a million times.
Yeah, that was a rough spot to be in. Now, if they signaled out, then I do put the blame on them. I don't know what you do at that point. I don't know if you just give them a single and wind everybody back a base. That's also not fair, but it's less fair than an inning double play. So
the inning double play was aggravating, but again, whether he caught it or didn't catch it, it looked like all we were getting on that play was 1 run. It was just the inning would have continued, of course.
And here's the thing that was also hard to figure out, because if an inning ends on a force play, then a run can't score, correct?
Correct.
So I guess they were. I mean, it could have been worse. What could have happened, I guess, is if they had, because I think Austin was out by failure to occupy first was the way that I understood the ruling. So that's not a force. That's vacating the base. So if they'd gotten the out at first and thrown the ball there and then thrown to third, second, then I guess the run wouldn't have counted. Am I overthinking it here? Is that how it would have gone?
No.
Because then the last out would have been a force at third base.
Well, no, because the umpire, here's the way I see it, Chris, because the umpire called him out, okay? Enrique was standing on the bag. So it amounted to Enrique tagged up and scored. He's already scored before any of that other happens.
Right.
That because he gave the out signal.
Well, but I think if it's a force, it's void, is it not? If the inning ends on a force play?
Gosh, you know what? We got to go to the book on that. I'm not 100%. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I know I think the run would have scored, but and obviously since he called him out, because there was when we went to live stats, a friend of mine beside me had his phone out, and he went to live stats, and it still had the game 4-4.
Yes.
Even though at the park they were showing it 5-4.
Yeah, and it was that way for a good 5 or 10 minutes. Like I went and asked when the inning was over and they'd had a few minutes and nothing had been announced. I went and asked. There's a box where all the game ops people, the media relations guys, the official score, there's 7 or 8 people in there. And I figured that somebody in that box would have been given an explanation. They just threw up their hands. They said, "We don't know any more than you do. Nobody's told us a thing."
Yeah, I'm glad that one's behind us. And again, that's one of those that's 1 in a million. So, strange play though. You don't see that very often.
What else stood out to you this weekend?
Well, I'm a little worried about a couple of kids. I think, and the guy that we're just talking about that hit that ball, R.J. Austin, he struggled mightily yesterday. I think he had 3 strikeouts and did hit a couple balls well, but didn't help us much. And I think he may be hitting a little bit of a freshman wall. I hope not, because I love the kid and I love the way he plays. But he's now been caught. He had another base running blunder this week, got picked off. He plays so hard, and I'm just worried about him hitting a bit of a wall. It's almost like let him have a day off, like Tuesday maybe. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I'm a little worried about R.J. Austin. And I think Diaz's bat is starting to falter a bit. He's down in the 260s, and he was up at 300. Those two, and again, I'm nitpicking here to try to find negatives. I mean, look, we've won 5 straight series, 3 sweeps in there. We're 13-2. It's hard to find anything negative. The defense is still holding up well. Except for the injuries on the pitching staff, or not injuries, but just load management, whatever you want to call it. It's hard to find any concerns.
Yeah, I didn't think Austin, Vastine, and Polk were tremendous this weekend. Although, I mean, I look back, Polk had 2 hits on Friday. Vastine had a hit and 2 RBIs on Friday. So it was that. Let's see. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. Austin on Sunday was 0 for 5, 3 strikeouts. Polk was 0 for 2 with the strikeout. Had a at bat, and one of those at bats really wasn't very good at all, and had kind of a misplay in the field. Vastine was 1 for 3, drove in a run, struck out once. On Saturday, Vastine struck out twice, 1 for 4, Polk 0 for 3, didn't strike out. Austin 2 for 4 with the strikeout, and of course just missed a grand slam. So, and then Austin 0 for 4 on Friday with a strikeout. Polk 2 for 4 with the strikeout. Vastine 1 for. I guess they hit a little better than I thought, but I mean I saw a little bit of that too.
Right. But after Friday night, again, you're so happy to get 2 out of 3 because that team, that lineup, and of course we haven't played LSU and we won't unless we play them in the tournament. That's a tough lineup to get through. There aren't any holes in that thing.
No.
And the Petrie kid, holy smoke, true freshman.
He may be the best freshman hitter I've ever seen in the league.
I've never seen. Yeah, I mean, my goodness, I don't know where he was out of high school. How is he not just straight to the Major League Baseball? I don't understand.
I think he was considered more of a pitching prospect than a hitting prospect, maybe. And he's not even
that's
pitching.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's unbelievable to me. Yeah. He and Caglione, I guess, will be up, and then maybe the kid at LSU, one of those 3 would be up for Player of the Year, I would suspect.
Well, Dylan Cruz is your Player of the Year, and it's not going to be particularly close, I don't think. But Petrie's the best hitter in the league besides him, and that's not close either, I don't think.
Yeah, and we talk about the bats being hot out of the wrapper. He's a big case for that. Now he is a big old kid, so I get how far he hit that 1 home run, but it looked like hitting a golf ball off a tee. He crushed it. Oh,
he's so big. He stands right on the edge of the box, too, and stands right on the back line. So, like, between those long arms, I mean, I feel like he's got half the other batter's box covered.
He does. I don't know where you pitch him. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't think
I guess we got away with some stuff up. If you go up, then you can get him. That's how they struck him out a couple of times, was above the letters.
This season of the Vandy Sports Podcast has been made possible by my friend Dr. Jody Jones, DDS. When it comes to general or cosmetic dentistry services, Jody is the best in Nashville. Just check out his client list. It testifies to that. He sees movie stars, music stars, athletes, coaches, you name it. Jody is the dentist of choice for stars in Nashville, but he sees regular folks like you and I as well. What people love about Jody's office is the ambiance. It's relaxing. It's friendly. Someone described it to me as a tooth spa. Whether your needs are general or cosmetic, go see Jody today. Call him 615-270-2322. See him at 55 Music Square East, not far from downtown or the Vanderbilt campus. Jody is a former Vanderbilt football player and a huge Commodore booster, so go and talk Vandy sports with him while you're there. Go see Jody Jones today. Thank him for his support of this podcast, because without it, this season would not be possible. I wonder if Corbin was bluffing about using Maldonado Sunday, because I thought, or here's the other thing that could also be one of those: if the game gets tied and you've burned Ginther and you burn Maldonado, what do? You occasionally end up in one of those situations where your closer doesn't have it. And so maybe that was the right call, but I just kept thinking, surely he's not going to let Ginther pitch to Petrie, and he did.
Well, to me, the only person he had up was Schultz in the ninth.
Yeah, and I would not have gone to Schultz to face those guys.
No. His stuff's been straight lately, and he hadn't been hitting his spots at all, so I definitely wouldn't have gone with Schultz. And it could be he wasn't. He just had him up throwing. I don't know. But that's the only person I saw throwing in the 8th or 9th.
Well, if Carter is not hurt like he suggested, then I presume you see Carter get the ball to start the game Tuesday for a little bit?
Well, Chris, I don't think he pointed. If you look, he pointed. Go back and look at it.
It was a bicep, I think.
Forearm. He pointed at his forearm, though. I know what it said, but for some reason he pointed at his forearm. Now, maybe you know how when you snap it off a pitch, sometimes it'll cramp up. It almost seemed to be a cramp to me, and I'm hoping that's all it was. And because he'd just thrown 100 and 101 was the velo on it, so that could be it. He was going back for a little extra. So hopefully that's all it is, soft tissue.
Man, this is go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, getting back to Carter Holton right quick. Him. I don't know what could be wrong with him, because the kid was 96 mile an hour. I mean, they say fatigue, but if you're fatigued, wouldn't your velo be down? He was throwing harder than he had all year.
Well, there's a difference between soreness and tightness, and my understanding is soreness was the issue, which is what they said publicly. And that is why I know people have been wondering, I've danced around a little bit, that's why that he was, I know there's all this confusion, wait, he's not hurt. Well, if he's not hurt, why is he not pitching? Well, if you got a sore arm and you're a potential first rounder next year, you're going to rest that. I mean, that's a smart move now. That's a smart move for the kid. That's a smart move for your recruiting. And that's why it all played out the way it did, is it was something there that you didn't want to see get worse. Like if you got a pitcher pitching with the sore arm, then everybody's going to say, hey, dummy, what are you doing pitching him? That's the move, but that's why it was never couched in terms of something that was borderline catastrophic.
Right, and I get that. You're right. You're correct on all those things. And another thing, it's because we have got some money in the bank sitting here at 13-2, so you lose a couple of Fridays and set him. And same thing with Hunter Owen. I'd much rather have those guys healthy at the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, here's some numbers where they are in the conference. Obviously, they're 13-2. That's a 2-game lead over Arkansas and Florida in the overall lead. They've scored 147 runs. Second place is LSU, 120. Third place, South Carolina, 117. They've given up 63 runs. Second place is South Carolina at 75. I'm sorry, second is Kentucky at 72. Then South Carolina at 75. Arkansas 76. Alabama 77. Run differential in the SEC. They're plus 84. Next best team is South Carolina, plus 72. So they've scored more runs than anyone in the league. They've given up fewer runs than anybody in the league, and they're no longer the best fielding percentage team in the league. A&M's got them beat by .001 in SEC play, but their errors are tied for second fewest in the league, and I think their double plays, I'd have to look that one up. I think they've turned far more double plays than anybody else in the league in league play.
No, I think look, there's no adjustments to me. You look at our halfway through the season worksheet, and you say, okay, where do we need to get better? I mean, let's be honest. Where do we need to get better?
They need to get better at staying healthy. That's what they need to do. That's about it.
Right. And that's something you can't control. Not really. So, get Ducanich back, figure out what we're doing with Holton and Owen, and let's play our cards and see who wins. Because I feel like the second half you got 3 away series and 2 home series. So you don't think you're going to maybe go 13-2, but definitely should be able to win 10 of them.
Yeah.
That would put you at 23-7 if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, you just go 7-8 down the stretch, and I think they're not only hosting, they're hosting 2 weekends.
Yeah, just avoid getting swept anywhere, and you're in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, this is I don't want to start throwing all the superlatives yet, because 2019 was special, but I mean, this team to me, they're on that fringe of they're right up there with the best teams he's had potentially, because I look across, it's an elite fielding team, it is an elite pitching team. I know the fans have had their issues with this and that with pitching, but again, the numbers pointed out when you look, nobody can pitch right now. This is not 2014 where you're going to have 2 guys in your weekend rotation with ERAs around 2. It's just a different ball game. And again, they're leading the league in runs scored in league play by a good bit. Now, some of that is definitely scheduling. Don't get me wrong, but I'm with you. I don't see anything they can't do.
Well, and you look at the league, like you said, the only Friday night guy that kind of scares you is Paul Skeens. He's even had his trouble. He's had his troubles. So, if he's the ace in other years, he would have been like the 5th or 6th guy in the league. Like you said, no one's dominating on the mound right now.
No. Well, he has dominated other than those 2 starts, and even mixing those in, the overall numbers have still been dominant. But he's given up 8 runs in his last 2 starts, and one of those only went 3 innings because of that weather situation in Columbia.
Right. No, right.
Man, this matchup with Tennessee this weekend is fascinating. And I went into the weekend thinking I would give Tennessee the edge. But, man, after the way they played in Arkansas, after what Vanderbilt showed me with getting that injury and still winning that series, which was incredibly impressive, I'm starting to think Vandy wins the series, Luke.
Well, I can see 2 out of 3 for either team. That's the way I look at it. The reason why is because of the park. I think that ballpark, because of that right field, little league, right, you can hit a pop-up, and if it's windy, it's a home run. So you can make a great pitch on a guy, and he hits it out. So there's just so much there at that park, more so than any other place in this league, that keeps it that way. So I don't think either team will sweep because of the facility. And I do think their backs are against the wall. They pretty much have to sweep us.
Yeah, and I mean, there was some interesting stuff. There was a tweet that a family member of one of the players, prominent players on the team, sent out that I think later got deleted, but it was talking a lot about pointing fingers and stuff like that. And that's not a place you want to be when you're 5-10 in the league.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. And if you've got clubhouse problems, and I watch a lot of these post game comments by coaches and so forth, that you can see and hear the frustration from Vitalo, because he even mentioned after the game last night that he's looking for toughness in his kids. So with that being the case, they may have some more issues than we think.
Yeah, I don't know if the thing that would give me a little pause first of all, it's up there. They're going to be laying in wait for Vanderbilt. For a bunch of reasons. Number 2 would be Burns pitched really well out of the bullpen this weekend, and if they get him right, although Dolander and Beam weren't any good, Beam in particular. So that's kind of like just when they get Burns right, you're thinking it's going to go well for them. They lose the series because those other guys can't pitch. So I just don't know. I mean, I could see this going a lot of ways for Tennessee. Their pitching is, if they get their pitching right, they are still really, really, really good on the mound. But the issue they have, and it's kind of was this way with South Carolina this week, they can't field anything right now.
No, they can't. And I watched all their games just like I watched ours. And there is we talk about having fun playing. Our kids look like we're having fun. Their kids are not. And
Yeah.
that's huge.
Are you ready for the mailbag?
Yes, I am. Go ahead.
We got a bunch of mailbag questions today, and I can't get through them all.
Okay.
But let's get through as many as we can. Yeah, I think there might have been some comments in the 16, but we'll see. Today's mailbag is sponsored by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call. That number is 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Bex4VU says, what's your prediction for this weekend's baseball series with Tennessee?
Well, like I just said, it's going to be someone win two. I'm not sure who, because in that ballpark, it's just unpredictable. And with their backs against the wall, they have to win. If we, look at it this way, even if they sweep, they're still sitting on 8-10, and we're sitting on 13-5.
Yeah, they'd still be five out.
Games back. Probably still fourth or fifth in the East.
Yeah. Dusty Orleans, the biggest surprise of the baseball season so far, both SEC and specific to the Vandy boys.
To me, Ole Miss is the biggest surprise in Tennessee. Those two. Tennessee was preseason, whatever, number 2, and then Ole Miss. Now they did have the one injured pitcher, but it shouldn't be that bad that they're sitting on 2-13.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Kentucky is a huge surprise.
Yes, on the
they rebuilt the entire lineup and a lot of the bullpen, and I'm happy. I really like Nick Mingio, and I've met him once or twice, and he's a super dude.
He and Beezer at Missouri are both really good guys.
Yeah. Okay, here's a good one. Bex4VU. Does Luke have any ideas how we can make the Hawk a more intimidating place for opponents, or is that even important? Says our team is pretty intimidating in any location.
Well, it's always something you want to be, but in baseball, unlike any other sport, emotion is probably the least important thing. You can play football angry, and you can play basketball angry, but in baseball, it's more of a skill sport, and you have to control your emotions more. So that doesn't mean as much. It's just frustrating when you see the corporate seats always empty. But I saw that. I was watching LSU in South Carolina. There's a bunch of empty seats at LSU behind home plate. And that just comes from the high-dollar folks that buy those seats and just don't go to games for whatever reason.
They need a student section or something. I mean, I'll tell you who does a good job is Murray Harris. He's the guy that's wearing the batting gloves and leading the clapping and everything. I mean, if Murray's not in the ballpark, I don't, I'm not sure the decibel level goes to 50 there all weekend, which is just crazy. But they need a couple more guys like that. I mean, remember in 2007 when they had the regional here and it was just nuts in the right field bleachers. And I think they put those in for that regional. You need to find something to get back to that. And this is also the same thing that I've been harping on. They're doing very little to build the fan base from a strategic standpoint that I can see. Now, I do see some good things that they do. Like the spring game, I thought they did a really good job with the food trucks and the stuff for kids and things. But there's a component to it, I think, in terms of outreach with season tickets and stuff like that. Although I guess they're probably close to sold out for season tickets. But I think that's part of it, too.
It is. If you look at the attendance, the Hawk will hold 4,000. Which that's with 3 only, and the attendance was like 3,800 all weekend. But as well as I do, there wasn't 3,800 there because of the corporate seat.
Right.
I don't.
Go towards 90.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's something along those lines. But sorry, I'm rushing through these to get you out on time.
Yeah.
Go Doors says UT is 5-10 in the league. What's going on with them, and why is their record worse than a year ago?
Well, we've talked about this before. First of all, it's surprising how their starting pitching has not come through for him. Vitalo switched everybody this past weekend, didn't start any of them until Beam on Sunday, and he's just grasping at straws right now. But they're too talented not to get it done. Now the new rules in effect, how much that has, the pitch clock, not being able to go to your hat and go to your glove and that type of thing. That's hurting them. And, playing by different rules this year. Everybody's playing by the same rules. Let me just say that.
Momolo says, what's your predicted record for final conference record and national seed? Also, what's your predicted order of finish for the SEC East and Tennessee's final conference record?
I'll go 23-7 for us, 15-15 for them, and I think we'll win the East.
Let's see. Pepperdor, if Patrick Reilly magically regains and finds consistent control of his stuff, where does that position him within the staff, and how big of a lift does that provide this team?
Well, the biggest lift is going to be in postseason when you get in the regionals and super regionals, when you have to play a fourth or fifth game, and you've got a Patrick Reilly that can start. A Patrick Reilly can throw strikes is as good as anybody else on our staff. That confidence boost he got from pitching as well as he did Saturday can really help this team when we get in the postseason more so than the regular season.
B3 Vandy, does Vandy have enough dominating pitching to go to Omaha? We seem to have a talented team with good hitting and fielding. Can our pitching limit the number of runs some of these big hitting teams score that they must face and give Vandy a chance to win it all?
Yeah, I think so. Again, like we talked about, Chris, we're looking for weaknesses. The only thing that's a weakness is health. So that's the one thing that will keep them. If you start getting a bunch of injuries mounted or you get a key player hurt, then things can change. But unless that happens, they're in good shape.
NBA door, your biggest takeaways from the spring game?
Just excited about offensive and defensive lines finally having depth. You know, we used to always have to patchwork it to try to find 4 or 5 guys on offensive line and defensive line even less than that. So I think we're going to have a pass rush for the first time in a while with Agu. He looks really good. The kid from Germany, he's a monster. Another few months in the weight room, he's going to do some great things. So that's the most exciting thing is that. I can't tell a lot about the skill guys in the spring because they don't play much.
Dusty Orleans, where do you think Enrique Bradfield Jr. gets drafted?
First round somewhere, unless everyone back, because he'd be a first round pick for one of those 30 teams. He has to be. He's probably the best defensive outfielder I've ever seen at Vanderbilt for sure, and one of the best in SEC history. And he's going to hit in the bigs. He'll hit between 260, 270, and steal you a bunch of bases.
Tien Surge, in your opinion, what is the minimum number of basketball players we need on the roster? Why do you think there have been no announced commitments from the transfer portal?
Well, in the new day and age of the NIL and the transfer portal, I mean, you might as well go ahead and just get bodies because it's going to change every year. Your roster turnover is going to be a change every year. So, if you fill it with 13, if 2 or 3 of them wind up not playing, who cares? Because they're going to probably transfer anyway. You don't play, you don't come back.
Vandy 1, are the rumors of Stackhouse leaving Vandy hurting in the transfer portal, or will it take longer to get into Vandy, or maybe players haven't made up their mind? Which of the 3 is most likely to be it?
Chris, I think there's just a lot of kids out there that we're talking to, and kids, you know how kids are, they don't make up their mind quick, and I just think that it's going to take a while before we fill our roster.
How do you think it's going to end?
Well, one of 2 things. NCAA or he's gone for 2 reasons. Number one, the contract will be over pretty much. Wait a minute,
he got extended.
I understand that, but it's not a lot. The payout's not much.
Okay.
So you're talking about a small payout. John Ingram's got that in his left pocket. So you don't have to worry about that. I will say that, the last 2 years, the improvement was there. It's just, he's got to make that next step. That's the thing. You got to get to the NCAA this coming season.
Door versus Tennessee, would you rather sweep every baseball game, win home and away in basketball, or beat them in football?
Winning up there is more fun than winning at home in football. There's no doubt about that. I've done both, and it's not even close. And then, of course, baseball is because of our tradition and how we've been so good for so long. It doesn't bother me either way because baseball, there's so many games played. You can sweep a series one weekend and get swept the next.
I think he meant it as if you had to pick a sport to win in, which one would it be?
Baseball.
Wow. I think that's changed based on the coaching situation.
No question.
Yeah. Luke, I think that's all I've got today. Any parting thoughts?
No, Chris, just tomorrow night, a really interesting non-conference game against a really good team. And, I don't know what their RPI is, but if we can get a win there, that would be nice. It's a good midweek win, and then head to Knoxville.
I think that's a top 30 RPI team. I haven't checked in the last couple of days, but they were even top 25 at one point, I think. So they're close.
Yeah, they're getting votes in the top 25. I noticed that. And I saw the new D1 poll that was out today, and they're ranked ahead of several SEC teams.
Yeah. Luke, appreciate you joining us. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great week.
You too. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We thank our presenting sponsor, Jody Jones DDS. We thank our other sponsors, Sutherland and Belk and MyPerfectFranchise.net. If you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, and that's how we make this work, please email me at chrisley70@gmail.com. We also ask that you subscribe to our website, vandysports.com. That is $99 a year. You get things there that you don't get here. And, of course, please rate, review, and subscribe where you see our podcast. That helps us get noticed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at vandysports.com. Follow me at chrisley70. And finally, subscribe to our Vandy Sports YouTube channel as well. Thank you for listening to the Vandy Sports Podcast, which is part of the 440 Network. I'm your host, Chris Lee. We'll catch you with another episode coming very soon.